So as you know, all these sessions are being recorded, so you can also go back to the sessions. If you missed something, something was not well explained to you or didn't understand an explanation, the lectures are recorded. You can always go back to them by hitting the same link that you used to access the class today. However, we are going to be looking today at we are going to be looking at project scope management. Okay, we started this last week where we looked at the three first processes on our project scope management. We are going to be looking at the others today in a little bit more granular detail because for assignment number 2, where you are asked to create and present a scope baseline, it is important that you understand the granularities of what a scope baseline is. And so we will go through a lot of that today. The first few slides, though, the first 3 slides are slides that are 4 slides rather, or slides that we went through last class. Nonetheless, I think it is important that we just refresh our memories as to what project scope management is all about. It's about collecting the stakeholders' requirements, understanding and documenting the scope. It is also about breaking the scope down into manageable components, and we will show that today. We also indicated last week that the project manager must plan and control the scope. So there has to be an element of planning associated with this. So both the project and the product scope must be defined and documented. We said last week that the product scope speaks to the features and the functions that characterize either the product, the service, or the result. So that is the product scope. The project scope, on the other hand, we said was all of that work that is required to deliver the product, the service, or the result with the specified features and functions. So it's essentially the project scope is all the work required to deliver on the product scope. All right, so let us not mix them up. Also, we said that the responsibility of the project team is to deliver all of the scope that was defined and nothing more or nothing less. If we deliver more, we said it would be gold plating, and we don't want to be doing that. We then went on to look at the scope management processes. So last week we looked at plan scope management, collect requirements, and define scope, right? This week we're going to be looking at the validate scope, right? We're going to be looking at validate scope. We're going to be looking at control scope under monitoring and controlling. And lastly, we are going to look at 5.4, which is a create WBS, which is a part of the learning group and process group. We're looking at create WBS last, mainly because of how involved it is, and we want to spend some time on it. So let's get the 2 easy ones out of the way. So when we think of scope validation, essentially this is a process of formalizing acceptance of the completed project deliveries. So you would have completed the project as designed. You have now created the product, the service, or the result. And so the persons for whom you were working must now signal their acceptance of that which you have done. So they are validating the scope. So they are receiving the work that you did. So when we think of it, essentially just think of the person for whom you were working as the customer or the sponsor, and they are verifying the deliverables, right? They review them. They are now in a position to ensure that they are completed satisfactorily. So when they do that, there must be a process to receive formal acceptance by the customer or the sponsor. So that essentially is validate scope. Now, when we think of validating scope, there are some fundamental inputs. The project management plan obviously would have been, well, I wouldn't say completed, because whilst you're making changes and things are happening, you're updating the project management plan as you go along. So changes are being made. But in the main, it's complete. There are other project documents that you need as input, for example, your lessons learned register, and there are other quality reports. Remember, from very early in the day, you would have determined what quality is. Now you're checking that quality against the deliverable. And of course, the tool and techniques used to validate scope is inspection. And you have to take some decisions when you do your analysis to see whether or not you are in agreement that the deliverables are as anticipated. And the output, of course, is going to be your accepted deliverables, the work performance information, and were there any changes, then there will be change requests and project document updates. Lessons learned register will be updated, requirements documentation will be updated if necessary, and the requirements traceability matrix will also be a feature of your output. So now that we have validated scope, let's now look at control scope. And what is this? As we go through our project implementation, there are certain things that we have to be monitoring to ensure that they are consistent with what we determined in the scope baseline. So we have some control mechanism that we use to ensure that we remain checked, right? So what this does, control scope, or the process of controlling, right, ensures that all requested changes and recommended corrective or preventive actions are processed through the perform integrated change control process. So that is what control scope does. So in the first instance, it is controlling that which was indicated in the scope document, that is your scope baseline, and also if changes were required on the project, your control scope is ensuring that those changes are done in accordance with another process, which is the perform integrated change control. Right? So let us look at the requirements, the inputs, the project management plan, and of course a variety of project documents. To control scope, you are going to do some amount of data analysis. This comes mainly by way of your knowledge of variance analysis and trend analysis. So you can use tools to assist you in determining what variances are. You can observe trends of the past and use that to determine whether or not you are controlling scope well. Your outputs inevitably will be work performance information, change requests, and updates to your project management plan and other project related documents. Okay, now the biggie that we want to look at is the WBS, right? So this one we're going to spend a little time on. And what is a WBS? So we hear the term from time to time, work breakdown structure. In very simple terms, this is a process of subdividing project deliverables and project work into smaller, more manageable components. Simple example. We are given a project to knock down and rebuild the engineering, one of the buildings, let me say which one close to the workshop over by engineering. So our responsibility is to knock it down, and it's a single-story building, and we are going to erect a 5-story building by engineering. So that seems like a sizable project. So we need a WBS. We need a work breakdown structure. So one of the first things that we need to do, we need to perhaps break down the work into into project management. So project management will become a component. Under project management, what we will do, we will initiate a new design. So we are assuming that we already have a project charter to undertake this job, right? So we need to design the new building. We need, and for us to design, we need to do surveying, we need to do a number of preliminary works. When we do our surveying, we get our architect, we do the design, we engage our stakeholders to ensure that this is the design that we want. And when we have done the design, we go to the various regulatory agencies, to include the local parish council, NEPA, etc., and we make a submission for them to approve the drawings. So let us say we have all our approved drawings. We then go to the university council for approval to construct, because they have to appropriate the funds, right? And they appropriate the funds. Now we have the money, we have the design, we know what we want to do. We now know what it is that it will cost, because we have done the cost estimation and we have the funds appropriated. We have to go through a process of selecting contractors, right? But remember that we are the project manager, so we're going to break down the work. So we may say that, okay, we're going to use the same contractor to do the knockdown, and we're going to use the same contractor to do rebuild, or we may break them up. So we want to make this manageable. So we can decide, let us now get a team, a small team, to look at what will be involved in taking down this existing structure to create the space for the new one. And so we want everything to coincide, right? Because it's one project. So we want to know that the moment our builders are ready to erect the new structure, that the space is vacant, meaning the other building would have been knocked down. So we create a micro project there. We're breaking it down into smaller, manageable components. So we have a strike team that is going to knock it down, cart away all the debris within 2 weeks, right? So they do that within 2 weeks. We get earth moving equipment to clear the property, because that is our scope of work in this aspect of it. To clear the property, take away all refuse from site. The site is ready for another builder or another contractor to carry out the construction. So we have disaggregated our project. Now, we still will break down this huge project into more manageable components. And a simple way to break it down is, okay, let us look at, we are going to have a strike force, do the excavation for the foundation, do all the steel work, pour all the concrete, and take us out of the foundation. Then we are going to level off so everybody can see how big the building is going to look by virtue of the foundation being poured and everything is now coming up from out of the ground. So that is the first part. Then we are going to erect the superstructure. That is the next bit that we are going to do. Whilst we're erecting the superstructure, we have broken down air conditioning. We're going to put air conditioner, perhaps it's a central unit. So that means we have to have special shaft. We're going to put a lift. So that means we have to, the lift company is just focusing on how they get their electrical to the lift and ensuring that the shaft is of the correct dimensions. Well, the main contractor, that's his responsibility, but you are breaking it down into manageable components. The electrical works is being done by an electrical contractor who his responsibility is ensuring that everywhere that requires electricals from your working drawing, there will be that. Then you might have, after you complete the superstructure, you might do roofing, right? Or ceiling, however you choose to do it. And you might want to break that out and you have a separate unit focusing on that. You may need windows and doors, right? So the superstructure being constructed is one, but then for the procurement and installation of windows and doors, another team is doing that. So every key feature of the building is being taken out and broken down. It is part of a whole, but you are putting it in what we will later call work packages. We will soon get to that. So when we think of the work breakdown structure, we think of a multiplicity of things. There is no project that is going to be properly done, properly designed and executed without a work breakdown structure. It's not going to happen. Most projects that run into problems are projects that do not have a proper foundation. They don't have a WBS. Now, so let us think of the WBS. When we think of the WBS, we think of the activity list. Everything that we have to do, that long list of activities. But for us to do this, we need staff, we need personnel, we need cost estimation, we need to have a schedule, we need to have a budget. It's a project that we are doing, so for every single activity that we are going to do, we have to analyze the risk. But then, for us to even know how long the project will, we have to do what is referred to as a network diagram. So when we come to scheduling, we will do a network diagram. And of course, the moment we start project implementation, there has to be some control. So before you get started, you put the control mechanisms in place. All of these things are functions of the WBS, or they interrelate with the WBS. Hence the reason it is of fundamental importance that we do our work breakdown structure well. If we don't do this well, we're bound to have problems on our project. If we don't, we'll just be lucky, right? So why is it necessary to do the WBS? I have said some of the reasons why already, but number one, it helps to prevent work from slipping through the cracks. It facilitates communication and cooperation between and among stakeholders to include the project team members. It provides a basis for estimating staff, costs, and time. And of course, because you are doing it with the team, you get team buy-in at that time. So when we talk about the creation of a WBS, of course, we need the project management plan, we need the project documents, and of course, the breakdown of the WBS is done by a process known as decomposition. So the tool or the technique that is used to create the WBS is called decomposition. The important thing that we need to know when we finish the WBS is that the output is your scope baseline. So your assignment number 2 that you would have gotten, the output is to do your scope baseline. Hence the reason you must do the WBS, right? But before we do that, let us define decomposition. What is decomposition? I would have alluded to it before. It is essentially the means of subdividing the major project deliverables into smaller, more manageable components until deliverables are defined in sufficient detail to support the development of the project. Right? So now we're going to look at a few diagrams. The first is this, looking at the hierarchical breakdown of the WBS, and I will explain this in a minute. Just give me 1 minute, please. Okay, I trust by now you have all assimilated the graph. Okay. When we think of a WBS, right? When we think of a WBS, I need for us to think of the WBS in this form. That the entire project, right? The entire project is said to be at ground zero or at level 1, right? So that is your complete project. So there are levels, and you need to have this understanding, because even if you use Microsoft projects, risky project, any project software that you use, it's going to be broken down into different levels. So the highest level is your project level, right? Then when you go to the, so just think of a hierarchical chart, right? The next slide is a chart that is gonna better explain to you, but I need for you to understand the hierarchical breakdown of projects. So you have the project as a whole, right? And that is said to be at level 1. The next level under will be the deliverables you have broken down. So let us imagine that the same UTech engineering rebuild project I described just now, the superstructure would be a deliverable. The air conditioning system, fully functional, would be a major deliverable. The windows and doors installed and fully operable would be another deliverable. The entire electrical works installed, tested, commissioned, fully operable would be another deliverable. Big packet. All of these are big ticket items. The installation of furniture, if it's a part of the project scope, would be another deliverable. So that would be your level 2 headings. These are major deliverables. Suppose you want to break down further each of those major deliverables into sub deliverables, then that becomes your level 3. However, at this stage, you cannot determine definitively the cost and duration of the sub-deliverables. So you further break them down into what are referred to as your lowest deliverables, right? And that is your level 4. You may still have a multiplicity of things, a whole heap of activities for you to deliver one of your lowest sub-deliverable. So you still break it down further into what are called cost accounts. So it is the grouping of work packages. Remember now, a work package is the lowest possible breakdown of the activities and or components. Why? Because you can assign a duration that it will take to deliver the activity or the element or the subcomponent, or you can cost all the resources required to deliver it. So that is now a work package. You have multiple work packages that will form a cost account, because a cost account essentially is the grouping of work packages for monitoring the progress and to assign the responsibility, who has responsibility for delivering this work package. Now, in a simpler form, let us look at the next slide. So we have a project, and the name of that project is personal computer prototype. So essentially, there is a team that is developing a prototype for personal computer. So this is your end product. So that is your level 1. This is the project. Level 2, you are breaking down this project into smaller, more manageable components. So this is a first consideration, vendor software application. So you see this as being a pillar to deliver this. Mouse, keyboard, voice system is another one. Disk storage unit, right? Well, notice what is happening. All of these are still broken down further into level 3 sub deliverables. For example, for disk storage unit, what do we need for this storage unit? We need an external USB. We need an optical, whatever optical is, and we need a hard drive. So the optical drive, hard drive, okay? These may need additional supporting information or work, so they are further broken down. Well, look at the hard drive. The hard drive is further broken down all the way down to level 5, because at this stage you cannot determine the cost for your hard drive. So you still have to further break it down, and you go all the way down to a level 5, because here what? It needs a motor, it needs a circuit board, it needs a chassis frame, and it needs a read-write head. So these are the 4 subcomponents required to create the hard drive. You can now cost each of these. You can now indicate the time of delivery for each. You can now determine the resources required for each. All of these add up to create your hard drive. The same thing is true over here. At level 2, we require a microprocessor unit, right? The microprocessor unit is further broken down because we can't determine the cost here. We can't determine how long it will take here, right? So what do we need to do? We break down the microprocessor unit into 2 sub-deliverables, an internal memory unit and a basic input-output system called a BIOS, right? For the BIOS, we need to further break it down into an internal output component, a filing component, and a utilities component. We may further need to break this down to another level because we still cannot determine how long. Remember, we're not just going to buy these things off a market. We are developing a prototype. So that means a lot of these components will likely be built or made in the company. So this is important. Now, what do we get? The lowest manageable sub-deliverables we get at the end of the day, right? And for each of these, we may have a work package, and we number the work package. So look, in the case of this, of the creation of the disk storage unit, in breaking the disk storage unit down into more manageable components, here it is that we need a hard drive, for example. The hard drive, as we said, must be broken down into 4 manageable components. The motor is simple because we're not going to make a motor, we're going to buy one, right? So the work package is, we call it WP, which is work package 1M for motor, right? The circuit board requires a multiplicity of components, but we can purchase them and assemble it. So we know what we want, and so we create 7 work packages for the circuit board alone. Work package 1 CB through to work package 7 CB. And all of these work packages will have activities in them. And just bear in mind that one activity could be a work package. Because in the case of the motor here, it may be one activity, and that one activity may simply be procuring the motor and presenting it. So that is one work package, one activity in this particular work package. In any one of these work packages, we could still have multiple activities. But whilst we can cost and schedule, meaning we can tell the duration that it will take for each of the activity, it is okay not to break it down any further. So we have a number of activities in any single work package. For chassis frame, there are a number of things that needs to be done to complete the chassis frame. We further break that down into work packages, and so we have 3 work packages for chassis frame. The same is true for the read-write head. We have multiple work packages for the read-write head. Work packages 1, RWH, which is read-write head, through to work package 5, read-write head. So it is important, it is important that all of these are broken down to the point where we can determine how much it is going to cost, where we can determine the resources that we will need, bearing in mind that there are 3 types of resources. Can somebody remind me of the 3 types of resources that we'll come up across? Can somebody indicate what are the 3 types of resources we have on project? All right, Colin and Desmond, both of you, and Etienne. Colin, Desmond, Etienne. One from each of you. What are the 3 types of resources that we'll find on projects? Hello?
We have people.
Huh?
We have people as a resource.
Okay. Who was that? Was that Etienne or Colin?
Oh, this is Colin, sir.
Sir.
Okay.
Capital.
Ceremony.
Okay, good. What is the next? Are you money? And go ahead, Etienne.
So materials can be one, right?
Okay, materials in a sense, but that's incomplete. Anybody want to complete it for him? It's material and equipment, or equipment and material.
Sir, you can say natural resources.
Who is that? No, Christoph.
Right, machines and materials. That's what it's supposed to be.
Well,
Equipment and material.
equipment and material. Let's not say machines, because you could have a piece of equipment that's not a machine. All right?
Yeah, I understand it.
All right, so those are the 3 categories of resources that we will have on projects. Any which way you cut it, that's how it works out to be. People, capital / money, and equipment and material. So just please bear that in mind. All right, so let's move on to our next slide. So here we are, right? We have a simple project, and I want everybody to pay attention to the numbering. Okay? Let us say that this is a project, value management system, right? So that's what they call a project. The project is decomposed into 4 deliverables. The first deliverable is the conduct of a needs assessment. The second is standards development. The third is systems engineering, and the 4th is project management. Now let's look at this. If you notice, the header is 1. If you notice the header for all other the 4 deliverables, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Now, this one that you have here could be part of a bigger project. You could have 2 over here with another team addressing 2. You could have 3 over here with another team addressing this. So let's say that this is not even a complete project. This is a part of a project, but it assumes the number 1. Or even if it were a complete project, the same would be true. The deliverables that you remember that you have this project now, you have decomposed this project into smaller, more manageable components, and what you get are these 4 deliverables. For each of these deliverables, you will have to further break them down into more manageable components. So you are further decomposing all the way down to work packages. Now let's look at 1.1. We are going to further decompose 1.1. But remember that this is already level 1, okay? This is level 2. This is level 3. And then all of these form level 4. Can somebody explain to me why all of these are level 4 and this one is not level 4 and this one is level 5. Can somebody explain to me what that is? Why that is? Okay.
Sir,
Okay, go ahead, Sean.
could it be a case where because both component identification and component analysis is a subset of the current system audit, so they take instructions or they follow that particular fashion, so both of them are on the same level?
You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But if for component identification or for component analysis, we needed to do additional works or further break it down, then anything leading from any of these two boxes would be level 5. You can also know by these numbers here. You notice 4 digits, 4 digits, 3 digits, 2 digit, 1 digit. So they assume their numbers, just by the number you can tell the level in the hierarchy that they are, okay? If you go to Microsoft projects, the same is true. Just by you looking at a component, only difference is that in Microsoft projects, it automatically assumes the numbers. So for your assignment that you have gotten, you are required to demonstrate your understanding of these levels. So you have to ensure that you number them, okay? So let's move on. Any questions so far? Everybody understanding the hierarchy as to how the work breakdown system, the structure system works, how we decompose down to work packages? Everybody understands that?
Sir, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
What if we had components, other components coming from component identification and component analysis? Would they be on the same level as well?
Who is it, Sean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that's exactly what the question I just answered, you know. I said, if so, the answer to your question is no, they would not be at the same level. If anything else that comes from components identification or components analysis would now be level 5. So they wouldn't have 4 digits here. For example, if we had 2 components, 2 subcomponents, well, let me not say 2 subcomponents. If we had 2 other elements leading from components identification, their numbers would be 1.1.1.1.1. So there would be 5 digits. The second one would be 1.1.1.1.2. A third element leading from this would be 1.1.1.1.3. So they would those would be level 5 sub deliverables. Understood?
All right. Yes, sir.
All right. So what this graph is showing us here is that this is a level 4 arrangement. Now look at what is interesting. For 1.1 needs assessment. The third level, all of them have from 1.1 through to 1.4. 1.4 systems requirements development. We can determine at this level the amount of man hours required to do this job, and so if we can determine the amount of man hours, we can determine cost. You do not need to break this down any further, because the objective of breaking it down is so that it is manageable and also so that you can cost it. So this is a work package on its own. We don't need to break it down any further because we can cost it at this level. At level 3, we can cost it. Alternatives development, we cannot cost it here because of the amount of work involved at 1.1.3. We have to further break it down into 2 additional sub-deliverables, which is alternatives identification and alternatives analysis. So in breaking it down, now we are in a position to determine the amount of man hours required. Based on the nature of what needs to be done, you will also need to determine the knowledge base of the individual who's going to do this work so you can cost it. Because remember that my man hour may cost may cost $50, but Sean's man-hour might be $75. But neither Sean nor myself can do the job, right? So we need Marcelo to do this job. Marcelo's man-hour is $120. So you need to make a determination as to who is going to do this job based on the skill sets required. And it is only then that you are going to be able to properly cost this work package. I wonder if everybody see where I'm going, how you can cost your project and also indicate the duration of each of these work packages. And that is how you truly determine the cost of your project and the schedule of your project and the resources needed by you going down to the work package levels. If you don't do that, you only can guess the cost of your project. So it is very important that we spend the time to develop the work breakdown structure, to create it and to analyze the details in the work packages. But the analysis is not done here. All we're doing is creating the work breakdown structure. The analysis is done in your WBS dictionary. So that's not what we're doing here, okay? We're just breaking it down. We don't want to do any analysis here, all right? So let us move on to another example, right? So essentially, the point I should have made here is that on this one, whilst we did the further breakdown on 1.1, it may also be that we need to do a further breakdown on 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. Okay? 1.1, we're breaking down 1.1 is simply showing the decomposition down through the work packages. That's what this is showing. This is not the only way to break down your project. You can break down your project by phase. Okay? So look at this now. We have a software product release, right? So we have broken down this project into 5 more manageable deliverables. There's a project management component, there's a product requirements component, there's a detailed design component, there's a construction component, and there's an integration and testing component. Now, all of these components are at level 2. Software product release is at 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. All of these components cannot be delivered at this level. We have to further break them down to better understand or to disaggregate the works so we can get them done as a whole. So all of them are broken down to level 3. There's no level 4 here. Okay? So this would be level 3, this is level 3, this is level 3. So this would be 1.2.1, 1.2.2, 1.2.3. Okay? And all of these are at a level where we can determine the cost of these work packages. Duration, cost, resources. So we have to be able to indicate all of these. And whilst we feel comfortable that we are at a place where we can do it, we do not need to further decompose, right? Now, we can have a huge project and we can also conduct the breakdown by way of the deliverables. So we have an aircraft system that we need to deliver. That is the major deliverable. So we break down that aircraft system. We have a project management component, we have a training component, we have a data component, we have an air vehicle component, we have a support equipment component, we have a facility component, and we have a test and evaluation. Go ahead, Sean. Unmute your mic, Sean.
Yeah, sorry about that. Is there a standard requirement in terms of how far these subsets should be broken down into, or it depends on your knowledge level, how much you need to know in order to break these down into various subsets?
Exactly. So the latter is correct. You as a project manager have to determine, and remember that for every process, what is one of the main things that we say is required as a tool and technique for the process? What is the first thing for most of the processes that you observe? Expert judgment, correct? As a tool and technique, one of the first requirement under tool and technique is expert judgment. So yes, the project manager needs to understand what he or she is doing. And so you do not need to break it down beyond that which you can indicate how long will it take us to do this? What resources will we take to do this? What is the cost of the resource to do this? Whilst you know that, or you're in a position to know that, you do not need to break it down any further, because that's the reason you're breaking it down. So it becomes more manageable so that you can make sense of it all. Have I answered your question, Sean?
Yes, sir, you have some.
Great. So let's move on to another WBS, right? So an important understanding, right? Everybody is familiar with a house. We are living in a house of some sort, right? And let us say that we have now left UTech. We have left UTech. We have acquired a piece of land and we are going to build our own home. Okay? So it's a simple project. So for the construction of the house, what do we need? We have figured it important to break down this house into three deliverables. There are some internal components, that's what we call it. There's a foundation, and then there is external. That's how we are breaking it down. And we have created some control accounts, because whilst we're doing the WBS, however we do the WBS, we need to ensure that our finance department is in alignment with us. So we share with them what we do, bearing in mind that certain companies may have a defined way that they do things. That's why it is important that you're in dialogue with all your major stakeholders, so that when you create your control accounts are in alignment with how your finance/accounting wants you to do it, or you can convince them to align with you. But there must be alignment so they can understand the numbers and you can understand the numbers. Because essentially, let us take external, for example. When we add up everything that is going to take to do building finishes and everything that it is going to take to do the external masonry work, all of that must add up to external. When you add these three together, internal, foundation, and external, when you add their total cost for delivering these three deliverables, you must get the total construction cost of the house. So again, your WBS helps you to structure everything in such a way so you can, even the financial/accounting component of your project, you can manage well. So you have your control accounts. Now, 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 2.2, 3.1, 3.2. All of these are second level deliverables that are referred to as planning packages. The smallest, lowest output of the WBS process is referred to as a work package. The smallest, lowest deliverable or output of the WBS process is your work package. In the work package, the objective is to be able to fully flesh out the activities to be done. They must be finite in a sense that you don't break them down any further. You can't break them down any further. Why you don't want to break them down any further is because you can cost them. It's because you know how long they're going to take. It's because you can assign resources to them. So in the case of internal, we have further broken it down into electrical and plumbing. So these are your two planning packages. Under electrical, you have rough-in electrical. Rough-in electrical means you're going to run your conduits in, you're going to put in your handy boxes, you're going to put in your mem boxes, you're going to put in your panel. That is a rough-in electrical, right? In addition to the rough-in electrical, you're going to install the terminal. So that is when you start putting in your plugs and your light sockets and stuff like that, installing the terminals, right? And of course, under this, for this particular project, it's a small project, so they have heating, ventilation, and cooling, which is HVAC equipment, your AC equipment. In Jamaica, we wouldn't need to put in any heating unless it's hot water heating just for a shower or kitchen. But the HVAC would come under electrical. So all of these costs would add up to the electrical cost. Under plumbing, you put in rough-in plumbing, which is when you're running in your pipes as well. In your bathroom, you're putting in your fixtures, right? And you're going to test and clean the system. All of that come under, and these are 3 individual work packages that you can indicate resources needs. You can indicate the time to do them, and you can indicate the cost to do it. All of that, when you add up all of these work packages, it gives you a value. It gives you a cost. It gives you a schedule for doing the plumbing work. How long is it going to take? Now, when you add the plumbing and the electrical, it gives you the overall cost for internal, but not only does it give you the overall cost for internal, it gives you the duration to carry out these works. You do the same thing on the foundation. You excavate, and then you're going to do steel erection. So you excavate, you pour concrete, you cure, and you strip form. For the steel erection, you put in your steel columns, your beams, and your joists, whatever is required. And then your foundation price is going to be adding up these two. The duration for your foundation is going to be the sum of the steel erection and the time to do your excavation, bearing in mind that some of these things could be running in parallel, okay? Then you do your masonry work and your building finishes. From this, you can generate the total cost of your project, right? But, well, let me not go there now. But the WBS is not intended for that. It is a WBS dictionary that does that. But the WBS gives you this from which you will extract the information for your WBS dictionary. So let us just focus on WBS. One more. This one is a bit more complex, right? It's a bit larger project, and it is simply showing that, look, for the project that you are doing, you would like to come up with something like this, because it is all of these. Look at the colors, right? All of these is your level, your level 1, okay? This is your level 1, sorry. All of these green, your level 2, right? So level 2, then you have level 3. If you notice this one right here, this one right here is further broken down, or each of these as they come down are further broken down, suggesting different, right? Now, all of these that are here, they are being taken down to different levels because none of them are at a stage where you can fully appreciate. Are you okay, Javon? You have a question? They're at a stage where you cannot fully appreciate the cost. You have a question, Javon? Okay. These are just samples I'll share with you that you can look at the different ways that you can present the information. All right. So let us go back to our personal computer prototype. And by the way, so you know, all of these images, or most of these images that we have been looking on, this one, right? This one, for example, this one that we are going to know, they're all taken from your Larson and Gray textbook. So for the person who asks about the presentation of all of these are in the textbook, okay? And you have the textbook. All right. There is a requirement for you to integrate your WBS with your OBS. So your WBS being your work breakdown structure and your OBS being your organizational breakdown structure. The Larson and Gray does a very good explanation of this. So let us look. Remember we said that the personal computer prototype is the overarching output. So that is your level 1. We broke it down into more manageable components through the process of decomposition. So your level 2 deliverables are these, right? For disk storage, we had described that we broke it down further to a level 3 set of deliverables. But the level 3 sets of deliverables were further broken down. We broke down the hard drive to the lowest manageable sub-deliverable or sets of activities. And we got to a level 5. So here is where we have our work packages. So for the work packages, right, motor was 1.1.3.1 all the way through to read-write head, which was 1.1.3.4. For microprocessor unit, we did something similar and we broke them down. Now, what we need to do is to indicate for each work package who is responsible. So we can do an organizational breakdown structure. So let's look now. We are breaking down. Look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen. We have the org chart. We have the organizational chart. And for the organizational chart, for those that are going to be participating, we have the manufacturing department. The manufacturing department is broken down into a design unit and a production unit. In the organization, we have a test unit. We also have a purchasing department, and we have a department that works on software. So for this particular project, we are going to draw on resources for the hard drive aspect of this project. Sorry, I have some noise in my background. For the hard drive aspect of this project, that was broken down into these 4 work packages. For these, well, not 4 work packages, because remember we had said that for some of these deliverables or sub-deliverables, they had more than 1 work package. Let me go back to that slide. Right. Remember, we had said for circuit board, for example, we had 7 work packages on the circuit board. On the read-write head, we had 5 work packages, right? So for these work packages, what we are now going to do, circuit board has 7 work packages, motor has 1 work package, and read-write has 5 work packages. For all of these work packages, we are going to assign resources to them, and that's how we have the integration of our WBS and our organizational breakdown structure. So just to produce this hard drive here, we have a number of work packages at the lowest level, right, for all of these sub-deliverables. And what we are going to do for the design unit, right, we are saying that they have to do the cost, sorry, the responsibility in terms of delivering the 7 work packages that will deliver the circuit board. This will be undertaken by the design team. So the 7 work packages will all roll up, meaning they will add up. The cost of each will add up into a cost account that will have to be undertaken, or the cost of doing that will have to be undertaken by the design unit. So they are responsible for delivering the works for the circuit board. Under production, they too have a responsibility to do the production work. So while design does all the work required to bring the circuit board to fruition in terms of design, production also has a role to play. The test unit has a role to play as well. So does the software unit for the circuit board. So 1, 2, 3, 4 units or 4 departments or sub-departments within the organization will play a role. For the motor, remember the motor had only one work package, and the assumption we made at that time is that they are going to buy the motor. They are not going to build one within the organization, because they are set up to build computers, not to build motors. They are going to buy the motor. And look here, we said it was one work package, and we are correct, because purchasing responsibility. So the cost of doing all of that work to produce the motor, to buy it and present it, is going to be undertaken by the purchasing department. And so that cost account is the responsibility of the purchasing department. Now, chassis frame. Let's go back to chassis frame. Chassis frame had 3 work packages. So there are 3 series or sets of activities to be undertaken to produce the chassis frame. And so those 3 work packages will be undertaken, or the responsibility for them is the production unit. So the production unit will do all the works necessary to produce the chassis frame. Now, the read-write head. For the read-write head, there are a number of work packages. There are 3 work packages, right? If you look at the costs for each of these work packages, plus if you look at the the time frame to produce them. So for each work package, this is what is required. You need to indicate a cost, what is the budget, as well as you need to indicate the time required to produce each of them. So what we find out is that production is responsible for 3, whilst testing has to be done as well. So the testing unit has responsibility for one of the cost accounts. That is why you have the 4 costs here. All right, so everybody understand how we integrate the WBS with the OBS? Are there any questions before we move on?
Sir,
Yes, go ahead.
could you go over the last part and then get it so well?
What part you call the last part?
The part where you're talking about how you integrate them.
Okay. So I selected the hard drive, and I said for the hard drive, we have broken down the hard drive, the production of the hard drive, into 4 sub-deliverables. Do you understand everything here so far, how and why we broke it down?
Yes, sir.
All right. Also remember that we said for the motor, to produce the motor, we need only 1 work package, because we had only 1 work package, and we made an assumption. We cannot, or we need not further break down the activities associated with the motor, because we are not going to make a motor. We are just going to buy a motor. We're going to engage the purchasing department of the organization. So the purchasing department is going to procure the motto on behalf of the project team. So we call all the works. Remember we said that all the works, let me go back up. Remember we spoke of a control account, right? A control account, and I said that when you add 1.2 and 1.1 together, all the costs associated with 1.1 and 1.2, it should add up to the cost for internal. So we call that a control account, right? So when you add up the cost account, so don't mix up the terms, all of these will come at a cost. We agree? All of these work packages, when you add them up, they will come to a cost. Each of them will come to a cost. You add up all of these work packages, it gives you the cost for plumbing. You add up these 3 work packages, it gives you the cost for electrical. When you add up electrical and plumbing, it gives you the cost for internal. Can everybody appreciate that?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that is your control account. Now let's go and look. Let's go and look at your cost account, which is what we were looking at here. Now, when we break down each work package has a number. Everybody agree on that? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, let me go back up here. If this is at level 5, we said that the number that would be assigned to the work package would be a 5-digit number. Remember that? Hello? Everybody remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So this is level 1. So the number that is assigned here is 1 number. This is level 2. Number that is assigned here, 2 numbers, 1.1, 1.4, those are 2 numbers. This is level 3. The number that is assigned is 1, 2, 3 numbers. This is level 4. The number that is assigned, 4 digits. If you're at level 5, the same is true, right? These down here, right? These down here are going to be assigned 5 numbers. When you further, remember that this is not the work package as yet, okay? So when you break up this work package, let me go back up to the graph that did that, to the slide that did that, right? So we are 5, right? So when you break up each of these into a work package, you're gonna get 5 digits, okay? So we are at the stage where each of these work package will have a unique 5-digit number for each work package. All right, so let me come back here now. So I don't want you to confuse these 4 digits right here. Okay? What should have happened? You see these 4 boxes right here? They should really be in this line right here. And then when we break up all the work packages that we looked on in the slide before, when we break up these sub-deliverables into work packages at level 5, we get our 5-digit numbers. So if you look here, it says your cost account number. That is the number for each of your work package is 1.1. Each of them will have a unique number, but it's 5 digits. And that's why when you look over here, you will see each work package having a number, 5 digits. That is correct. Okay? What is not correct about this diagram is just that this should have been in this line. I think they push it down here only because of spacing, which was wrong because they give a wrong signal that this is level 5. So whilst this is the lowest manageable sub-deliverable, it is not a work package. These are not work packages as yet, because we are going to further break them down. And the evidence of that was here where they showed us, here is the evidence that at level 5, these are the work packages. Each of these work packages are now at a level where they can't be broken down any further, or you don't need to break them down any further, because you can cost them and because you can indicate a timeline as to how long they will take. With that understanding, let us now go back to this graph. That for moto, we said there's one work package associated with this. That one work package simply needs, so we don't need to break it down any further, because we can call, the project team can call to find out the cost of a moto, or the purchasing team can call to find out the cost of a moto. So we give the specifications to the purchasing team. The purchasing team will purchase the moto on behalf of the project team. So, sorry. So what does that mean for us? It means that in our organizational chart, when we are mapping the organizational chart, which is your OBS, the organizational breakdown structure, that's what we are creating, we are indicating what members or what units of the organization will give support to the project. So we have this grid. So we are just using this one component as an example to procure the hard drive, not procure, to construct the hard drive. We need all of these units to assist us to do that. Why? Because these are the 4 sub-deliverables that we have to produce the hard drive. Each sub-deliverable requires some assistance from the organization. So to procure the moto, we need the purchasing department to do so. And so we map the purchasing department to do this. Remember, we said that for each work package has a cost account number. That cost account is really, at the end of the day, the addition of all the work packages. In this case, in the case of the moto, there is only one work package and therefore one cost account. And that is assigned to purchasing. For the circuit board, there are 7. Remember, we saw 7 work packages. Each work package has a unique cost account number. And what we're saying is those 7 work packages are assigned in terms of the works to get them done, assigned to 4 different departments within the organization. There's a design unit, so some aspect of the project as it relates to design is assigned to them. There's production, some element of production is assigned to them. For testing, so for the circuit board, we have to test the circuit board, and so the testing unit will have to do that. And for the software, there's a software unit, and they will be responsible for providing the software or for uploading the software, whatever it is they do, for us to produce the circuit board. So we have 4 areas within the organization that will be integrated into this grid for supporting the development of the circuit board. For the chassis frame, there are 3 work packages. All 3 work packages will come from the production, or will be managed by the production team. So all of them add up into a master cost account, all 3 of them, and that is the responsibility of the production team. So we are showing for each component or each sub-deliverable here, the different organs or the different departments within the organization that have responsibility for them. For the read-write, let me just go back and check. We had 5, I think. For read-write, yes, we had 5 work packages. 5. So look at this. Production of the 5 work packages, right? Production has responsibility for 3 of those work packages. So the 3 cost account number 1, 2, 3 will add up to form a cost account. right? That cost account will accrue to production, testing as one, and perhaps design as one. So the 5 work packages are assigned to design 1, production 3, testing 1. So for us to integrate, for us to determine who has responsibility for what on the project, for each work package, we need to do this, the far bottom right of the screen. In this case, we are saying production has responsibility for these 3 work packages. We also need to state the cost package, and we need to state how long each will take the schedule. Do you have a better understanding now, Sean, as to how we integrate the WBS with the OBS?
Yes, sir. Understood.
All right. Now,
Sir, I have a question.
before the question, if you look on my presentation, the presentation that I have online on Moodle, you will see another way to do it that I think is easier. Okay? You see another way to do the integration, so you don't have to use this method. You can use, I think that one is easier, and you can put more information on one slide. So if you look on my lecture, another lecture that I posted on Moodle, you will see that there. Go ahead. Question.
Yes, sir. The fact that the hard drive is to be constructed, because all the components, well, the pump to be exact, was not manufactured or created by the entity. Whenever you're
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that, sir. Whenever you're giving account for all the components, would you refer to that as outsourcing or contracting out or something like that? Whenever you're giving account for everything that has been done in relation to the hard drive.
Okay. So remember now, I think I understand your question, but remember what you are trying to do, is to integrate the OBS, which is the organizational breakdown structure, with the work breakdown structure. The case you give, if you are outsourcing, that means it's not the organization doing it. So if you are outsourcing it, you still need to do this that you are doing, right? The only thing now, that rather than having this cell, you would perhaps have another cell down here outside of the organization, because all of these are suggesting that you are getting these resources from within the organization where you are doing the project. Supposing that was not the case, you are getting additional support from outside the organization, you would put another cell here and indicate another cell below software, for example, and indicate the name of that resource and to state that it's external. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So put the information, but you must do an OBS at all times. You should be able to look at something like this to state where it is that you're getting the resource from, or where is the resource. So you as a project manager must be able to look at this and you see immediately who is supposed to do what. All right? Any other questions before I move on to the next slide?
No, sir.
All right. There's also what is called the responsibility matrix. So let's look at this project. Separate and apart from the OBS integration with the WBS, you could have a scenario where you say, all right, These are the activities or these are the tasks. I'm going to identify target customer, develop draft questionnaire, pilot test questionnaire, all the way down to prepare the final report. Who is going to do what? So in this case, they're calling this a responsibility matrix. In some literature, you'll see it referred to as the RACI chart. And in project management, they like using the RACI chart. So the other presentation that I have already posted on Moodle, if you look in that one, you will see a RACI chart. If you look in the PMBOK, you will see a RACI chart, R-A-C-I. The RACI chart means responsible, responsible, accountable, consult, inform. So that's your RACI chart. In this case, this is just a responsibility matrix. But in project management, more and more you are seeing RACI charts because in addition to showing who is responsible, who is accountable, it shows who gives support and when. So that's why I prefer the RACI chart to the responsibility matrix. In this case, it is showing you all that Richard is responsible for on this project, all that Dan is responsible for on this project, Dave, Linda, and Elizabeth, right? For example, to print the questionnaire is the responsibility of Elizabeth. To prepare mailing labels, Elizabeth. To develop the draft questionnaire, the responsibility is that of Richard, but he gets support from Dan and Dave. So for your assignment, you are expected to present as well a RACI chart showing the key stakeholders, who is responsible for what, okay? This is another form. This is another form where you can put numbers. So look at this. We have various activities to be undertaken on this project. And this is a type of, this is another type of how you integrate your WBS with your OBS, right? However, I would prefer a type like this for your assignment or a type similar to what is contained in the lecture that is posted on Moodle because it is about your demonstrating greater understanding, okay? But as you go on, you can do something like this, a RACI chart or a responsibility matrix. So we have a number of deliverables on this project. Architectural design, hardware specification, kernel specification, utility specification, hardware design, disk drivers, memory management, operating system documentation, prototypes, integrated acceptance test at the end of the project. And so in this case, right, the design team is responsible for the architectural design. They, however, will get support from the development team. They will get support from testing, and they will consult. They will consult with quality assurance and manufacturing. In the development of the prototype, right? For them to do it, the design team must approve the prototype. So these are the person. The responsible team is the assembly team. They have to assemble a prototype, right? Now, of importance, they have to do some consultations with 3 groups. The testing team, they have to consult with purchasing, and they have to consult with quality assurance. They have to give notification to the manufacturing team at all times, as well as the documentation team, as to what is happening to ensure that everybody is aligned. But importantly, they must get approval from the design team. So this is another way of showing, it's an easy way to integrate your WBS with your OBS, okay? Now, The last subtopic that we want to look at today. Remember I said, and let me just quickly go back up to it. Now that you have broken down, you have by way of the process of decomposition, you have broken down your project into a smaller, more manageable component by breaking it down to level 2, then you break it down to level 3, and for you to get to the lowest manageable aspect of the project where you can actually do a costing of the activities, you can do a costing, you can do or indicate a duration for each element or for each activity. You get down to the work packages where you do that, so you don't break down any further. Now, that analysis that is required for the duration of each of the activities in the work package and for the assignment of resources to the activities in each of the work packages, that is now going to be done at the level of the WBS dictionary. The WBS dictionary is a document that provides detailed deliverable, activity, and scheduling information about each component of the WBS. So you have done the WBS, you have broken it down, and you say, yes, I am at a place where I can determine duration of activity. How long is it going to take to do each activity? I know the skill sets that are required to do it. I can assign resources, meaning I know the equipment I need. It's going to need a backhoe, and on average, a backhoe is going to take 5 hours. So I need a backhoe driver, or the cost for the backhoe is going to be this over the entire period of time. I also know that I need a truck to cart away debris. The backhoe needs to load the truck. The truck is going to charge this. I am at a stage where I know precisely what is required, and I have 5 activities in this work package. All 5 of them, I can cost them, and I can put some time into it. That means I am working in the WBS dictionary. Okay? Because I'm assigning duration, I am assigning cost, and I'm assigning resources. So the WBS dictionary is a document that supports the WBS. Most of the information included in the WBS dictionary would have been created prior to now in other processes, such as the create WBS process. Right? However, I'm going to share with you, though you already have it on Moodle, I've already posted the template, a copy of the WBS dictionary, and I'm going to show you the sort of information required by the WBS dictionary from other processes. Not only from the create WBS process, but from other processes that you would have done before that you will now have to draw on to support the WBS dictionary. So it is of importance that we recognize that the WBS dictionary will include a multiplicity of things. And for your assignment, you are required to develop the WBS dictionary with the code of account identifier. Whilst it sounds highfalutin, you already know what that is, right? So you need the code of account identifier. What is that? You see these numbers right here that we mentioned before? You are going to need these numbers to gauge how you identify your WBS dictionary. So these numbers, you just carry them with you. So these are called the code of account identifiers. So you need these numbers, right? Code account number, they are your identifiers, right? So you need that for your WBS. You need to describe In the WBS dictionary, each activity, just a brief description. For example, just now we wanted to procure a motor. You would just give a brief description of the motor. The description you're going to give will be the specification. Specification would normally include things like your voltage, things like the power output. A lot of us refer to it as horsepower. So your power output, you need to state that. You need to state voltage. You need to state frequency. That sort of thing, right? So you are describing what the work entails. The procurement, the sourcing and procurement of a motor specification, right? Description done, nothing fancy. Any assumptions and the constraints, an assumption might be that we operate in Jamaica on a 50 hertz cycle. It may be difficult to find a 50 hertz cycle motor. So an assumption might be the motor will be a 60 hertz. So you make adjustment for that because you know efficiency will be diminished. So all of these are consideration. Constraint. That in itself might be a constraint. Okay, the system that we are developing is a 110 volt system or a 24 volt system. Most motor of 50 hertz will be a 220 volt system, and so that's a constraint. Or we can get it, but we may have to go into Europe to get it, and it may delay delivery. Those are constraints. Responsible organization. You have already done your OBS integration with your WBS, so you can indicate who is responsible or what unit within the organization is. What are your scheduled milestones? You will need that. Associated scheduled activities, you need that. Resources required. So in the WBS dictionary, you are indicating the resources that are required because that's how you're going to do your costing. Cost estimates, right? You can look at a number of means. When we look at cost estimation, we'll realize that there are various means by which we can do cost estimation. You look at that. Quality requirements. So quality requirement, as you very well know, quality is a chapter in the textbook, and quality will be looked at independently. But for each aspect, for each of your activities, for each of your deliverables, what is the acceptable standard to which you are working? So in the WBS dictionary, you will want to state that. What quality? You're buying tiles. I need grade A tiles, right? Not grade C, grade A. You state it. Because when you're doing your cost estimation, you don't want to be getting prices for grade C tiles, but rather prices for grade A tiles. So you have an accurate account of cost to ensure that you don't have any cost overrun on your project. Acceptance criteria. Be sure that when you're building a house and the owner of the house says, I want the color of the house to be pink, be sure, and particularly for men that say you don't know color, make sure you know what pink means to the customer. So you want to get a sample and settle that sample with the customer before you put on that pink, because what you see as pink, they see as red or burgundy, and vice versa. So make sure you understand what the acceptance criteria. You finish building the house, paint it in pink, the lady comes and says, that is not pink, I don't want that color. You just got yourself into trouble, and what you will have to do is to repaint that house. So make sure for the acceptance criteria, you understand it fully well before you proceed. Technical references. Ensure that you do this. I spoke to some of it earlier. For example, when we're dealing with specifications and stuff like that, make sure you get it right on paper before you proceed to do anything. Any additional information that is required in the form of an agreement, make sure it is contained in your WBS. For example, the works that you are doing will require chemists. And remember earlier we said that an input into many processes may be an existing agreement. Let's say, for example, the company already has a chemist. You would perhaps not want to use that chemist, but there is an agreement, which is why the chemist came on board, that any projects that come up, that is a chemist that you will need to use on that project. So you make sure that for that particular resource, you may want to state that the cost may not be a cost of the project, or if it will be a cost of the project, you indicate in the WBS dictionary, because that's what you're going to use now to develop your cost estimation, right? So all costs that will accrue to the project, you must state. If it's a zero cost, you state that, hey, I'm getting this resource from the organization, and so a cost will not accrue to the project, etc., etc. Very important. The WBS is going to be a fountain of information for you. So let us look at this example of a WBS, right? Remember we spoke of the code identifier. So let us start with looking at the project title, yeah? And in addition, we indicate the date when it was prepared. Remember, each work package will have a name and it will have a number, right? You indicate the name of the work package here. The code of account identifier is that number I mentioned before. You put that here, right? You're going to give a brief description of the work to be done. For example, I gave one just now, the sourcing and procurement of a 3.5 horsepower or a 500 kilowatt pump, specification such and such. You put it here, okay? Any assumptions and constraints, you put it here. Are there milestones? Yes, there may be milestones associated with the project, and so timelines become important. You put your milestones here. You indicate, based on these milestones, now what is the due date? So you are saying to procurement, I want this delivered by this time, okay? Now, in addition to that, can you still see the screen? Everybody can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so in addition to that, you will have the activity, right? Remember that each work package has multiple activities, though a work package, remember work package we're going by in a WBS dictionary, right? You can have more than one activity in a work package. For example, let's say you have 4 activities in the work package. Each activity has an ID number from the same work package, right? So if the work package number is 1.1.1.5.1, then the ID number will be 1.1.1.1.1A, B, C, D, or however you want to do it, but they have a unique identifier. You state the activity, you state the resource required for the activity. Now, supposing the activity, so you put an activity right here. This is activity number 1. This is activity number 1, or call it A, activity A, under this work package, right? And it's activity A, whatever it is, the activity is. Let's say you need a people resource, right? You need a people resource, and this is activity B. You can skip a line, right? The first resource, you need engineer. You need an engineer. E-N-G, right? You need an engineer. The second activity, you found out that you're going to need a backhoe. You're going to need a backhoe. Okay, so you're going to need a backhoe for this resource, okay? As a resource for activity A. The amount of hours you need the engineer for, 40. It's going to take the engineer 1 full week to do the work. But you're going to need a backhoe for only 16 hours on this particular job. Okay? What is the rate of the engineer? Let's say we're using US dollars. The rate of the engineer is 150. Right? What is the rate for the backhoe? Rate of the backhoe is 30. 30. You put that there, you put that here. What units of measurement? This US dollar. US dollar. US. Oh, no. So we know the amount of hours. Sorry. We finish with labor. Let me just finish with labor. We finish with labor, right? Do we need any material? Do we need any material for the yeah, do we need any material for the engineer? The answer is no. So this is blank, right? Do we need any material for the backhoe? Answer is no. That remains blank. Then the total that you would have gotten here under labor is all that is required for here. But supposing now for B, whatever activity B is, right? You need material, you need resource. Or how do I move this? You need, suppose you need a mason. Mason. Right? You do the same thing in terms of labor for the mason. The mason is going to work, let's say 40 hours. The rate for the mason is $35 per hour. $35 per hour. Well, let's say per hour. You indicate what the total is here. You then go to material. The mason tells you that he needs aggregate, right? So aggregate is measured, let's say, in ton or cubic meters, right? Let's use ton, which is weight, right? Let's say he says he needs ton, and he needs 50 tons. Okay, we should put 50 tons in this right here. The cost, let's say, is $15 per ton, right? So you multiply the 15 and you get the total here. Whatever total you get here and the total you get here, when you add them all up, it gives you the cost for this particular resource here. Okay? Now, the quality, remember I spoke to you about quality requirements. Here's where your state quality, your state equipment specification, etc., etc. If you wouldn't have done the equipment, I like putting my equipment specification here if it is something that I'm procuring. But if it is specification, the quality and specification come here. Let's say it's a construction. You indicate the quality and with respect to the type of finishing that you need. The specification must be compliant with which standard, etc., etc., etc. And for each work package, you will do that. When you add up all the work packages, you get your cost of account. When you add up all the cost of account, you get your control account. When you add up all your control accounts, you get the cost of your project. Okay? So please, when we look at costing, you will see this some more, but just remember that this is only one type of WBS dictionary. The one I have posted on Moodle is a little bit different than this, is more detailed, and I suggest you use that one. This is just for acquaintance purpose. But as I said, you have a WBS dictionary already, and what the WBS dictionary allows for you to do is to gather all the information concerning the respective work packages that will allow you for a smooth project implementation. Firstly, by doing the WBS dictionary, you will learn granularities of your project, where the cost drivers are, how to develop the costing, because you are forced to look at the labor and the resource to include equipment, right? And whilst you do that, you cost it for each of the activity that is in the respective work packages. You can cost a work package, say this is what it will cost to deliver this. When you add them all up, that is how you get your project budget. Okay? Any questions on WBS dictionary? Any question on WBS dictionary? All right. You have some more time. I am going to ask that you use the rest of the time to, as groups, to address project-related questions. Start working on your WBS. Whichever project you select as a group, start working on your WBS since it is fresh in your mind. But I would like to go back to those persons that are not yet in a group. So please indicate if you're online. Matthew Brown, Nathan Brown, Conroy Campbell, Natalia Campbell, Jace Edwards, Javon Haynes, Etienne McKenzie. Etienne McKenzie, I do not have you in a group. If you heard your name just now, what is your group? Who are the members of your group? I am not seeing whomever is clicking whatever. I can't see that. I'm seeing my spreadsheet. So please speak.
Sure, yes, sir.
Morning, sir.
I'm Javon
One
Haynes.
person at a time. Who's speaking?
Javon Haynes.
Javon Haynes. Yes, sir. I don't have a group for you. Who's in a group?
I started late, so I wasn't in a group initially.
I didn't hear you, sir.
No, sir, I said I'm not in a group.
Okay, just stand by for a moment for me. Who else is online that heard the name and is not in a and has a group?
Me,
Let
sir.
me start. Me, who's me?
Etienne, sir. Etienne.
All right, Etienne, let me find your name. Mackenzie, right?
Yes, sir.
Who else is in your group, Etienne?
Jace.
All right, hold on a while. I remember that group. Jace, where is Jace? What's Jace's last name again?
I'm not sure. No.
I just called his name. So I know it's here. Jace Edwards. So who else is in the group?
Somebody named Nathan.
Brown, Nathan Brown?
Yeah, I think so.
Who else?
I seen somebody in the group, sir, because some people just joined from a link named Kim. Andre Manning.
Manning. I don't have a Manning on my list.
Probably not on Moonlit. You have a Kim, sir. Somebody named Kim.
I don't have a Kim either.
Sir, I'd have to go ask them to send them ID.
Please, yes. So that's the point I wanted. I need the ID numbers. The group leader, will you please send me the names of all the members of your group? Right? I need it, and I need it today. All the members of your group and their ID numbers. Okay. Is there anybody else who heard the name just now who is already in a group? Okay. So the person who earlier said he was in a group, you now speak. Person speaking earlier that he wasn't in a group. Who is that? Here's you said your name is?
Yes, sir.
Could you unmute your mic, please?
Yes, sir.
Is it that's Ains, right?
Haynes.
Okay. Is there anybody else online who is not in a group? Now, Mr. Ains, why are you not in a group?
Sir, I started a little late, so I'm a bit behind as it pertains to that.
Mr. Ains, I think your assignment number 1, I think it is due tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
I think I extended the time by 1 day because there was some confusion about whether or not it was the 6th or the 10th. So if you look online, and this applies to everybody, I think I extended the time by 1 day to tomorrow. So Mr. Ains, whether you are going to not sleep tonight, yea or nay, your assignment is due tomorrow. I'm not going to extend it. So please ensure that the assignment is up by the end of tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir.
By the tomorrow, for those, I'm just going to go back through my listing, and anybody who is not in a group, I'm going to form in a group. I'm going to send you the contact, Mr. Ains, of those persons, and I will copy those other persons, and you all do the work together. Or if it's just one or two persons, I will attach you to an existing group, okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. Is there anybody else online who is not in a group? All right. Please, I'm going to jump offline now, but you are expected to continue with the engagement and starting your assignment number 2, selecting the project of your choice amongst yourselves and start working on assignment number 2. You don't have a lot of time. Have a blessed day, everybody.
Yes, sir. Okay. Anybody want a group number? Want to join?
Hello?